Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi, and today we're going to be doing a comparison between a vintage blue snaggletooth and the new recent reproduction one produced by Smithlord Creations. Because a few weeks back I did a review of the new yak face and blue snaggletooth produced by Smithlord Creations, but unfortunately I didn't have a vintage blue snaggletooth to do a sort of comparison with. All we were comparing it to at that point was a standard red snaggletooth, because basically the top part of this figure is the same sort of sculpt. The only bit they changed was the legs. But I'm now lucky enough to have a vintage blue snaggletooth in my collection, so I thought I would come back to this modern Smithlord Creation one and do a proper comparison so that you can see the two figures side by side, because I know a lot of people were very interested to see if there are any differences between the two figures. So let's have a look at the two figures in close-up and we'll see what the sort of differences are, if there are any at all. Okay, so here we have two versions of the blue snaggletooth. The one on the left is a modern version produced by Smithlord Creations, and the one on the right is a vintage one produced by Kenner. So let's first have a close-up look at the Smithlord Creations one. So you can see the sort of detailing that he's managed to get in the moulds and the sort of the reproductions of the sculpt, and as you can see it is really lovely and sort of crisp detail. It's very sharp. There's a lot of sort of nice lines going on there. Even all of the little lines on the little arm sort of stripe there are very detailed. I'll zoom that in as close as I can just so you can see it, and also all the detailing on the legs. Now, as I showed in the previous video, this figure has got a new copyright stamp on the bottom of its leg. You can see there it says SLC, and that is to differentiate it between the vintage ones. But now let's bring in the vintage one and we can compare these two side by side. As you can see, this vintage one has had a little bit of play wear, so some of the paint is missing, but if you compare the upper bodies and the arms, there is very little difference there in the sculpting. All of the detail has managed to come across from the vintage one into the modern version there. And if we look at his head as well, you can see that it's just about got exactly the same amounts of details. The only slight difference I'll say between these two is that the modern one's face is a little bit lighter. It's got a little bit more of a flesh tone going onto it. The vintage one here has a sort of slightly greeny grey tinge to it, but the modern one is possibly a little bit sort of pinker in colour, but otherwise it's really very close. Even the paint application is pretty similar, and I'll just do a comparison of the sizes as well, so you can see that the heads are exactly the same size there, so it really is a very good sort of recreation of this toy. Now if we move down to the legs, we can again take a sort of closer look at those. You can see again all of the little stripes and lines on the legs have come across. So there's the vintage one and here is the modern one. It really is a very close match, and as you can see as well, the paint on the hands. Now the paint on the hands of these vintage ones is a little bit worn and also a little bit faded in places, so I think the colour match is very good. This is possibly a little dark, but as you see if I turn these round, that some parts of this vintage hand are also quite dark, so I think it's a very good match overall. And then we turn to the bottom of his feet and you can see there that's pretty close. I think the peg holes look like they're a lot crisper actually, and the bottom of this feet is very smooth, whereas this vintage one actually has a little sort of dent in it. You can see there's a little sort of indent there on his toe, and also you can see the sort of two sides of the mould there have got a little casting line, but actually the modern one, those are missing completely, so the feet are very smooth. So that's a little telltale sign there if you just want to check that yours is vintage. But I think this modern reproduction one really is very nice quality. We'll turn it around, show you the back as well, and you can now see the difference in the copyright information. So the top one is the Smithlord Creations where it says SLC, and the bottom one is the Kenner version, so it has the Hong Kong markings and the Lucasfilm sort of copyrights for 1979 there, and the other one, there go, SLC. So that is the sort of major difference between the two figures. The copyright information has been changed, but overall these are remarkably similar. I think it's an incredible bit of work to recreate such an old figure with sort of new technology. It just looks amazing. We'll take another look at the carded version as well, because one thing I forgot to mention in my previous video showing this was the image on the front of the Snaggletooth. This is actually quite a classic image of Snaggletooth, but in the original shot he is wearing a red outfit, so the outfit has been recoloured to be blue to match the figure, which I think is a nice little touch there. It just is something sort of simple to do, but it really does make quite a difference. Just shows that this is a nice sort of custom card, because this figure never actually was released on a card back, so this is a completely sort of custom card. I did show you on the previous video that if we turn it over, it does also have a little bit of information there. It says Smithlord Creations on the back, so it's clear that this is a reproduction card. And a few people have said to me that you could just put a sticker or something over that, but I think really Putting a sticker there would be pretty obvious that you're trying to hide something, and this is a fairly obvious card anyway, because it never came out on this card, so I wouldn't worry about that. But certainly the quality of this card is really nice, and just the whole way it's been sort of recreated, it really does feel like a vintage Star Wars card. It has a really nice sort of weight to it when you've got it in hand. And that's it for this video. It's really just a quick update to show the comparison between a vintage Kenner Blue Snaggletooth and the Smith Lord Creations version, which is currently available. I will put links in the description to where you can get the modern reproduction of Blue Snaggletooth and also the yak face. And I will also put a link to the original video I filmed showing both of those figures. And I do have to say a massive thank you to Tommy, who very kindly sent in the Blue Snaggletooth to add to my collection. It's really been very helpful, because it's always nice to be able to show a proper comparison between the modern and the vintage figures, and it's something I really try to do with all of my reviews. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow toy-polloi on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.